Welcome to this week's episode of Art Wisdom with Chris and Kat. And this week we're talking about influencer marketing, JVs or joint ventures, and collaborations. So these are things that can be done in lots of different ways.
The question often is, what is an influencer? An influencer isn't just someone with a relevant audience, although that is important to get right. It is someone that has, I was going to say like a captive audience, but it is an audience that actually listens. You know, the idea of, people who can talk about the things and the products that they use, and then their audience being like, okay, I'll give that a go. Influence doesn't necessarily have to be played out on a large scale. You could be an influencer for a small group of people and the people that you work with, but again, like, it comes down to relationships. An influencer is someone that has like a relatively deep connection to their audience, in which people believe in what they've said, and they, because of track record. And I think that's something that's really important when you're looking for, like, who are you, and like what's your level of influence, and then also what is an influencer, and who else are you going to be working with.
Beautiful things I have done before. Collaboration with co-ops. And co-ops.
Ooh, what's a co-op?
Work for me was where you get a group of people together who are who've got different products or the same product. Like, I've done them with interior designers. Or interior design shop, and then all the things in the shop were slightly different, and I put my art in that shop. And then another one, I was part of a art society, and then for a while we had a pop-up shop. For a couple of years we had a pop-up gallery, and it was just art in the gallery, and that worked really well. But the thing with a co-op is, well, usually is anyway, you all take turns working in the gallery or the shop.
Right.
Yeah. So you go on a little roster and things like that. So that was fun because you get to meet other people. But it was.
Yeah. And I think also, like, I think the key thing about all of these is you get to share your audience.
Yeah.
So
that's right.
And that's the critical thing, I think, about all of these, in my mind anyway. It's like working with people in different ways to share your audiences. And so, because I was thinking, oh, I've never done that. But then actually I just realized I did, because we did one together.
Yeah, we did an art show together. Yeah.
Right. And then also I sometimes DJ at Bush Duff's. It's been a while now, given COVID, but and they almost always have a art gallery, and you get all the different psychedelic artists, and then my work was in there. And that's an interesting thing again as well, because it's bringing different people, different audiences, different walks of life to the same venue. Yeah. And as a buyer, you might be coming for someone specific, but if there's something that's like a parallel to it, you might go, oh, that's a really nice whatever it is. Yeah. But also I think you've done do you want to talk about what you did with the in the winery? Because I think that's a really interesting idea for a kind of a joint venture, I guess.
Yeah, it was a joint venture. They needed something interesting for their membership. They have a membership of hundreds of people, so they like to offer things to their membership every now and then. So one of the things was an art show, and it was in the barrel room of a winery, and it looked amazing. And
so, like, barrels stacked high,
absolutely huge barrels all around the place, and then they set out like chandeliers hanging down, beautiful furniture, barrels, so that people could sit and have their wine tasting and have the art around in there. So it was pretty cool to be involved in.
That's awesome. Yeah. I think that's an interesting thing, right? Because it's like similar but different, in the sense of the audience is the same audience as yours, but it's for a product that isn't the same. People who like fine wines also like luxury paintings. Do you know what I mean?
Or they've probably got the money to spend on these things,
right?
Because they're buying nice wine. So it's
Yeah.
Same audience, but different audience.
Right. And I think that there are lots and lots of things. So like there's a couple things that you mentioned, which is like working with interior designers, you know, so a designer that, because obviously everyone's art style fits different
Yeah.
styles and each interior designer has their own. So you're not going to be able to work with every single interior designer, you know, people that like to create very light, you know, airy kind of interiors are not going to be picking my paintings anytime soon, because mine are all like dark and very like vivid colors and that. Well, maybe it would work, but do you know what I mean? Generally speaking, they'll have ones that complement them. So
Right one.
it's like finding someone that, you know, that complements you. And I love the idea of finding what, because there's lots of different things. Like I've thought about this, you know, where do so once you've got your avatar, and I think if people haven't gone and worked out that avatar, to go back to the episode and like listen to like who is your avatar, but your avatar, you know, they have a whole life. Do you know what I mean? So and that life might include that people who generally work on your level may go to a certain type of even like a certain type of an accountant, or they might be working where, you know, they might all go to a specific type of hair salon, right? I know this sounds abstract, right? But it's like, if you're in a luxury market and you want to get in front of people, it's like, what products, services, locations, or events do these people go to, right? You know, you might find that your thing is actually golf courses. That's where you're, you know, and the way that you find this, of course, and I think we talk about this in the avatar one, is, you know, talk to your clients, the ones that you've got. Now, I know that that's a challenge when you first start, but that's okay. Like even having just a few people that are buying even just prints and stuff, understanding where they're basing and where they are and that kind of stuff, that's really helpful. But yeah, so, you know, one of the things that my partner told me about was that he used to do these. Now obviously I do space art, and he used to be part of a luxury retreat place where, you know, people would spend a lot of money to go on this like spa adventure, but also that spa had like its own observatory, and then that would be part of the sort of activities for these people. And it's like understanding that that's like, actually you could work with a spa, you could work with any number of businesses that are non-competing, but they have relevant audience, and it's about giving value, not just to the, obviously to the people that you're servicing, the client base, but also to the other business. I think that's really helpful.
Yeah. Well, we see it in hotels, don't we? Like luxury hotels, they'll have art and they've got the tags on it with the artist's name and they're for sale. So, you know, that's an avenue of that luxury market. But as you were saying before, the co-ops, it's because you might sell to your friends and your friends all love your art, but they can only buy so much of it. But all these other artists as well have friends too, who may not like their friends' art or have bought enough of their art, but do like art. So we're like having those joint things, you know, and we used to have, you know, every few months or so an opening of some sort of a different style of, you know, every now and then we change the whole look of the gallery. So we invite everybody back in, have a fresh look at it, have an opening, and just keep introducing new audiences, other people's audiences to your work.
And I think if you're lucky to have like an ongoing art establishment or like a co-op that you're working with, it's good, because I think also sometimes you'll find the person that maybe it's following a different artist, the first time they see your art, they might not want to purchase, but it might take 2 or 3 times. So if it can be a regular thing, it's good. But also I think one thing that just popped in my mind is about like where, like there are places where not to place your artwork. You know, I think one of the there was a period of time where I was like waitressing Indian food and curries, and they were like, yeah, you should hang your artwork here. And I was just thinking, nope. You know what I mean? Because it would stink of curry and it wasn't the right audience. So there were, you know, just because, and I think, and I mean, I know you've got a lot of it and so have I, but as an artist, you will often talk to someone and they'll go, oh yeah, you should hang some artwork in my
all the
office,
time, or
in
all
my
the time
restaurant,
in
and
everywhere.
you're like, like, it's like, I don't want to let you down, but that is not the establishment that matches the
Yeah.
audience that you want to meet. And I think that's something that people got to be hyper aware of, because ultimately they're just looking for some free artwork to hang on their wall
I
under
think
the
sometimes
guise of,
people
oh, they'll,
people are trying to be really helpful as well, I feel. And then they
yeah,
say, oh, you should put it here, you should go to this and go to that. And it's like, it is knowing that thing of going, oh yeah, that's great, but in your head you're
no.
going, no.
You just know. And so don't take every single offer or suggestion. Like, you don't need to be hung in like someone's bathroom area or in a business that, like, you know what I mean, the local chip shop, the fish bar. Like, you don't, there's unless it's like a fine dining chandelier and silver cutlery kind of place, right?
Yeah.
And I think and I know that this comes into it, but as an artist, you should be thinking a little bit like, oh gosh, who am I to hang my pieces in this amazing establishment? It should be that way around. It shouldn't be like, you shouldn't ever think, oh, I don't really, what I mean? If the ask or the place that you want to put it in should make you feel a little bit uncomfortable because it's that much higher. Yes, last episode you said something like,
if you
say like,
can't, you must.
if you can't, you must. And then you said Gucci, Prada, Bugatti, then Chris Mercer, right? So the same vibe and feeling, that should be the concept of where you place your artwork. You should have that same like, ooh, I'm going to feel a bit shy about asking, but
Giving you
I
that
think
little bit of stretch to go.
A little bit of stretch.
That's where I need to go. That's my next
100%.
level I need to step into to be who I need to be and to get my art
because
out there.
Also, you don't want to be like, here's my other thing about art shows is that I don't necessarily want to be placed next to artists who don't value their work.
Yes.
It does not, like, if you are an artist that is trying to make a successful business, you want this to be your life. You do not want to be next to an artist that will flog their artwork for $50 or $100 or whatever, you know what I mean? Like, you want to be situated in amongst peers who are also looking at the luxury art market,
Definitely.
like, and that's very important. That's why, and I talk about, I talk to a lot of friends about different websites to sell on. And yeah, like, on one of the things is Etsy, right? A lot of people go, oh, Etsy, but the problem with Etsy is that 2 clicks away and you're next to an artist who doesn't value their work, that will sell it for basically the cost of the materials, not even factoring in their own time.
Yeah.
And it devalues your work to be placed next to that. Don't do it. Like, if you're going to be placed next to someone, and I don't want it to sound snooty, because it's not about that. It's just that you can't fix someone else's attitude to their own artwork. That's a journey that they have to go on, but you shouldn't be pulling your artwork down. I mean, in like, the perceived value of it, by placing it next to like in an establishment that doesn't necessarily take itself seriously, or next to other people who don't take themselves seriously. And that's something that I think is like important to talk about.
Yeah, I suppose it's, again, you feel that stretch, if you're going somewhere and you're putting your art, you think, I'm going to approach this co-op or this gallery, and you're feeling that, oh gosh, a little bit uncomfortable, then you're in the right place. But if you're going, my work's 10 times better than theirs, and you're looking at it and they're $100 or something, it's like, you're just devaluing what you do. People are going to look at your work and go, why is that so much more expensive than this?
Right.
And it's just not going to be any good.
Artwork isn't about creating a wall decoration. I know I say this all the time. You're not making wall decorations. You're making pieces of meaning. Like, the art is the message behind it. And if you really are convicted towards the message that you're putting out, you need to make sure that it's in a good place, you know, and that it is taken seriously. Even if your work is inherently jovial and fun, you know, you don't want people to necessarily dismiss it. So I think there's like a balance, right? I think with a lot of this stuff, which is, it's good, you know, the point is that you want to be able to work together to combine your audiences. Now, their audience might not be big, your audience might not be big, but together it might work perfectly. But it has to be the right audience. And you should be always like that little bit of stretch. You have to, because you don't grow as a, you know, you just don't grow by consistently underplaying yourself.
Yeah. So other collaborations at this radio thing that we've got going on here is another collaboration with us,
right?
so, you know, and you can do, like, I've done other local radio interviews with artists and interior designers, just because it was fun more than anything else. It was great fun to do, but it is a collaboration where you get in front of different people's audiences. So it's like, find out what you like to do as well. You know, I like the interview things. So
right.
yeah.
And I think there's a real beauty to long form content like this. You can sit and you can kind of get to know the vibe of someone, and like, there isn't any way to like connect, you know, because this is a one-to-many approach, and this is really a fantastic way of doing it. So like, being involved in other people's, like, either interviewing different people or being involved in like things like podcasts. Now I'm aware that some of those audio versions, and art is inherently visual, but there are lots of like video-based podcasts just like this one that
It's
you
getting
can
to know you, isn't it, Kat?
yeah,
You know, like, people are getting to know you. So if you get invited to be on someone's podcast, you know, that's great. People will start to know who you are and why you do things, and they buy art from you because they like you as well.
100%. I think that's really important. The one thing that also just popped into my mind about co-ops, and not to come back to it all the time, but be, like, in my opinion, be wary of getting yourself involved with a co-op that wants to take the lion's share of the profit of the work that you're doing. So if you're in a place and they're saying, I want 40, 50, 60% of your sale, I would be like, unless it's a sale that's way, way, way above your standard value, I would be like, no, thank you, personally. And I know that that's how a lot of galleries operate. And you do also have to be careful in some of them, because they won't allow you to create the direct connection with your client. They'll keep it at arm's length. So just watch out for that. And that, for me, that's a massive red flag. Because
definitely.
We're in the world of internet and direct to consumer. There is no reason why you can't physically connect with your own clients. There shouldn't be. So but talking about that,
well, I'll just finish off with the co-ops that I've been involved with. It basically, you rent the space on the wall, and then anything you get off the art is your own. So so it's up to yourself how much you spend on it, how much exposure you want, and then it's up to you to, you know, do the work with your art to get the sale. So they were really good.
I love them. I mean, only because I love a good party, and we will have to do another episode on like how to run those events and that kind of stuff, because we've done one together. It was a lot of fun. So talking about influencer marketing, right? And in particular, how that works on social media platforms, right? Because one of the big challenges today is like, how do I get in front of a relevant audience? Now, we've spoken about like how to do that in a physical setting, but in a digital setting, it's basically the same, you know. And I always say, like, again, you want to be relevant, different but relevant. So, you know, for me, when I'm working with another account, and the way that it works, like, and I'll just take Instagram, and I know that we've done a whole section on Instagram, growing your Instagram. If you've not watched it or listened to it, go back and listen. But find someone that's similar but different, right? So, you know, I do space artwork. So I work with people who are scientists. I work with people who do space news. Like, if you're making nature paintings, Go work with like a conservationist, go talk to someone that does a nature magazine, go talk to accounts that, even ones that sell like if you're a painter, ones that do like photography gear, or that are focused around like nature or like birding or whatever, right? Hypothetically, find because there's lots of different pockets of different but relevant, and those are often filled with people who are passionate about, like, what you want is someone that's passionate about the topic that you're interested in. And then doing an arrangement where you're like, okay, well, I'll share some of the stuff that you're doing. And this is important. It's got to be a brand that's reputable, because everyone that you promote is a reflection of you. And you don't want to be going in there working with someone that is going to not just make you look bad, but doesn't gel with your values. Like, you've got to go value based, as in like, if your value is like honesty and just I'll do what I say I'll do, right? And those are your like some of your highest values, like honor and honesty. Don't go and work with someone with an account that looks a bit shady, right? Because you'll get clients that don't fit well with you. So always consider those things too, right? But yeah, go and find these different but relevant accounts, because the benefit is that you're sharing similar audiences, but it's non-competitive. Now you can work with other artists. I've done that, and we've shared, but for me, it's because I personally want to get as many space artists as possible, because my mission is beyond my own artwork. It's about connecting people to the universe, right?
Yeah.
And if I'm trying to reach billions of people, I'm only one person, and I want to build an army. So, and that's important to me, but that might not be your purpose and your mission, right? So find the people who are similar but different, those non-competitive people, but that have similar audiences. Now, like, I know when you're starting out, you're often thinking, well, I've not got many people. Well, you don't necessarily have to work with accounts that are huge. You can always work with accounts that are kind of small, right? Have you done any of that kind of stuff, Chris?
Only through the interviews, really. Interviewing other artists, interviewing interior designers, and then they share the interviews on their social. So
I love that.
Yeah, so I've done it like that. Not through sharing my art, but it's the same thing. It's sharing me, and that's
right.
It was just my way of doing that. And people were great, when I approached them and asked them. They were like really keen to be on a podcast, and it was a local radio station. They, I had great fun with these people and made new connections.
You know what it's just made me think about is, don't be afraid to ask. Because I think that especially like, and I know we spoke about like how to manage emotions in the last episode, but there's often the big part of like, who am I to ask such and such a person, and you think, but there's there's a big power to asking, and you will be surprised. In fact, the people that you think, oh God, I shouldn't ask them, they're probably the people that receive the fewest amounts of asks. But it's about being able to put forward some kind of value. Now, of course, if you're an account and you've only got 10 followers, and you're approaching an account that's got, huge levels of engagement, you might not be able to be like, well, I'll give you a shout out to my 10 people if you give me a shout out to your however many that are engaged. So just be aware that, pick people that are either on a similar level, that are on that same journey, because you're all looking for help and support. Because, getting organic reach is a challenge depending on like which platform. When we look at Instagram and how the algorithms have changed, most people do not get, only about 4%. If it's a standard post, only about 4%. And I just want to explain why that is because TikTok has really disrupted the scene, because the way that TikTok works is that, it's showing you the best from the entire country or the entire world, right? That's what shows up in your feed. It's actually not, it's very, very rare that someone will watch the people that they specifically follow, because the people that you follow do hits and misses, whereas it's trying to give you banger after banger, you know, like the
Yes.
best of best of best. The same with Facebook as well, right? It's trying to, you know, instead of just seeing people from this kind of sphere and getting the best content, you're getting the best content from this sphere. And it was hard for, you know, people like companies like Instagram to compete. So that what they've done is they've pushed people into reels, where now it's like you will only get seen if your content is like incredible. And I mean, you know, we do talk about that in a previous episode. There are lots of things that are like crossover episodes today. So there are a lot of accounts now. So one of the ways to get in front of people, there are a lot of accounts that will repost viral content. You know, I was recently approached by Adobe Photoshop because they wanted to share my content on their page, right? Even though there's a big disparity, I've got a piece of content that's a killer piece of content, and they want to basically, what the value exchange is not like, I'll show you my audience if you show me yours. The value exchange is you can use a piece of my incredibly highly engaging content if and we'll tag you and whatever, and we'll share you with our audience. They get the engagement that keeps them relevant, and you get the new eyeballs. So there's lots of things like that. But, you know, getting in front of other people's audiences is always going to be a challenge. So it's important to, it is important. I feel like the people that will succeed the most are the ones that are prepared to collaborate.
Yeah. Yeah. And I found, you know, I just asked people who I liked the sound of, who were doing things, you know, that I was interested in. And it didn't really matter how many followers they had.
Yeah.
Some were big, some were not so big. I did find with the really big ones, like I'd, you know, speak to them and I'd get them on the phone and they'd be like, yeah, that sounds great, sounds good. But then it was hard getting the follow-up because they were so busy. So a couple of them just dropped off because, you know, you can only chase somebody so much without feeling like, oh God, I'm turning into, they're just going to not want to ever speak to me again, you know? So I just let some of them go. But so
like if I think about me and my account has got to a stage where I actually have to have a team managing my DMs and messages because there's just too many. You get about 200 a day. So you do get that challenge with larger accounts.
Yeah.
But if you can get on a phone call, which I think is incredible, if you can set the next date and create a meeting invite with the correct links and have it all ready to go so that you just lock them in, that is very beneficial. But even if, like, and sometimes, right, it's actually getting a connection to someone else. So, you know, it's like, if you can't work with that specific account, it's like, well, do you know someone that I should be working with? You know, could you do just sometimes you have to be a little bit cheeky, you know, would you introduce me to X, Y, and Z person? Like having that introduction is incredible, especially if this works, I believe, best when you're on the phone. It's a very hard ask if it's just in text, because I think they have to connect with the human.
You're right.
But there are more platforms than just Instagram. There's Facebook, there's Twitter, there's TikTok.
Would you find that they'd work all the same though, Kat? Because I would be feeling that they'd just work the same, where you just have to reach out to whoever.
The principles are the same, but the mechanics are different. So, you know, in Twitter, there's really two major ways in which you can collaborate with someone. Am I going to be, or at least I'm sure maybe I'll think of something else, but on the top of my head, firstly is the retweet function, right? It's just a single button click and they can retweet your content. And having a relationship with someone where you're retweeting each other's posts because they give value to each other's audiences, because they're on the same, you know, vibe and all of that stuff is very beneficial. So there's that side of it. And that is like like it's super easy. You can literally just be like, would you mind? Like, and I think this is important. Don't just go in there and be like, retweet this or follow me, because there's nothing less appealing than that.
Yeah.
But build a relationship with someone, which again, obviously, depending on the size of account, may be easier or harder, but depending on how many messages they get. But if you build a genuine connection and build it because you care about the person, and then not with the sole intent, I want to get. In fact, if you go in there with the intent to get, it's often very off-putting. But instead, if you can go in there with the intent to give, that's the magic. So if you look at another account that you really admire and think, what can I do for them? You know, and whilst of course there's the law of reciprocity, right, which is that if you do something really nice for someone, they'll want to do something back, but don't do it with that intention. Like, do it just because you love you love the work that someone else is doing. And if that happens, great. And if it doesn't, don't worry about it. You know, you've still given value to your audience by sharing something and someone that you care, you know, the work that you appreciate and all of that stuff. And if the rest follows, that's wonderful, but don't get too hot. Like, again, I think, you know, I actually, you know what? This is just for all of life. It's general life advice.
Cat's life advice.
Cat's life advice. If you go into any situation in life about what can I get versus what can I give, you're setting yourself up for a life of kind of misery, and a life that doesn't have there's so much wonder you can create by focusing on giving. Now, also, I think that there's an important part of it that, you know, you want to be in a situation where you're not giving every last inch. It's not about like setting yourself on fire in order to keep someone else warm.
Not about being a martyr.
Yeah, it's not about being a martyr, but it is definitely about, you know, like if you go into those interactions with the intent to get from people,
it's just feel the energy. The energy is not right. So it's just,
you know,
so Kat, when you say you build a relationship with them, it's just comment on their things and like their posts. That's build a relationship over.
That's it. And consistent over time. It's not just a one shot, because I think this is the other thing about like influencer marketing. People like create these lists, like, all right, these are the top 300 people I want to, and they just give everyone one message. And for me, it's like building a relationship is like building a house. In a way, it's like you don't want to lay 1 million bricks, but it's just one brick in each house, because at the end of the day, you've got nothing and you've put a lot of work in to building weak connections. Instead, focus on just a few core people. Now, of course, some of those people are going to have different levels of availability, commitments, and all of that things, you know, and their own personal interests. And again, you're going into this in order to give rather than to get. But, you know, if you're laying 1 million bricks and you lay all those bricks amongst 3 houses, well, I don't know how many bricks a house uses, but you know what I mean? You've built something that is lasting. And actually, you'll find that you build lifelong friendships and with people who are relevant, that you appreciate, that you admire, that you want to help and support. That is so much more valuable than having 1,000,001 bricks. And I don't know where, like, I heard that analogy somewhere else. So I don't own that one, but it's super relevant, and it's really relevant for influencer marketing, because ultimately it is about connection and it's about relationships, whether it's a joint venture, creating, you know, the reason why you were successful in hosting an art show in a beautiful, beautiful winery, right? Is because you had an ongoing relationship with the owner of that place. The reason why you know, your art co-ops were successful is because you did the same thing over and over and again with the same group of people. You didn't just, so the people, you know, their audiences started to build a relationship with you. And, you know, if I think about who I work with on a day-to-day basis, my close friends in social media land, you know, I now go and fly out to countries just to hang out with them. And it's that level of connection that you want to build. You know, I would say that you don't want to put all your eggs in just one basket. You don't want to only like focus on one person, firstly, because you don't want to be annoying as hell. But, because everyone's like, you don't want to be, you do not want it, you don't want to be needy either. Like there's nothing less appealing than going into a relationship needing and wanting, because that's also, but if you can do that with a group of different people, but not like a massive amount, if one or two people end up too busy to talk to you, it's no big deal. It's okay.
Yeah. I love that analogy with the bricks, because we're all visual, aren't we? So like, that really, I can see that. Yeah, it's really
right. Yeah, so think of it like that. Now, the other way to create engagement with Twitter is to host spaces. Twitter has this feature that's a little bit like Clubhouse, which is basically a talking platform, right? Now, I understand it's not super visual, but you can pin a tweet at the top. So you can pin a tweet. If you can work with someone else that has a considerable following, that you have this relationship that you want to promote and boost each other, and just host a space on a topic that you're passionate about, and it doesn't have to be like, it would have to be analogous to your work, but it doesn't have to be specifically about it. Like I might host a space about the James Webb Space Telescope. I'm not painting anything from the James Webb Space Telescope. It's only just launched, but our audiences are interested in that topic. You might want to put a space together about like how to create a happy home, right? Or finding whatever your passion
in.
The people that it's like the questions and the situations that your audience is fascinated, interested in, and host those spaces together. And then that's one way that you can collaborate on Twitter, right? And that's honestly, it's fantastic. The value you get from being able to actually have a genuine conversation with someone on the other side of the world is amazing.
And if you find that topic you're keen on, you can talk forever, can't you?
Oh, me, I can talk forever anyway.
Forget you on space.
Now in Twitter, I did a collaboration and a joint venture with a scientist, right? Who was having, who needed, her work funded. And we actually collaborated, took her ideas for the science, and I created artworks based on her science, and we put together a project, and that's how we collaborated, and it was from a place of love and care and like wanting to give, not just to her, but for the community. And you can do that, you can see someone, like you can find people that need what you have to provide and work together in that way. So there's a lot of different ways of doing it, but I think if anyone just takes just a few things, that I think relationships are very important. So
everything, can't they, really?
Oh, for sure. So what are your top 3 things, Chris?
Top 3. Number 1 is think outside the square. So, just take time just to think of just all weird and wacky things. Don't delete anything of like who you might collaborate with, and have fun with it. And you just don't know what things will spark, because the winery thing for me just came out of the blue. It wouldn't have been that I thought of, but even the podcasts and that, things came along. So what do you like doing? What do you love doing, besides your art? What do you like talking about? Is the people in that space that you go, they might benefit from that. Might even be real estate if you like property, art with property, just think outside the square. Number 2 has to be a win-win. So it has to be great for both of you. So I suppose when you're thinking of it, turn it the other way around and go, would I be interested in this? If somebody came to me with this, would I be going, oh my God, this is amazing, I have to be part of it? So, because I think sometimes we think of it so much from our side, and then our side seems wonderful. And then you go like, what's in it for somebody else? Somebody else, it's got to be more than just help. You're not going to just help you for nothing.
I love the fact that because any situation you can, well, not every situation, but you can create situations that are win for everyone. It's a win for you, it's a win for the others, it's a win for the audience.
Yeah.
And there's ways to do it for sure.
Yeah. So you can look for that, the win-win. And set number 3 is be clear, because when we're doing a joint ventures
Oh my God, yes.
with people, be absolutely clear. Write yourself a contract of what you expect from each other, because this is a relationship that you want to carry forward. Maybe you'll do it, once, twice, 3 times a year. It might be a fantastic thing that when you've got clarity of what is expected from both of you up front before you even start anything, then no one's going to be disappointed, or no one's going to fall out, or no one's going to be thinking, well, I didn't think this was part of what I was supposed to do. It's like, so be completely.
Well, that's it. I think the contract is there so that you know where you stand.
Yeah.
It's actually there so that you don't have any issues, not because you need to pull it out when you do have issues.
Yeah.
But I always think contracts are a bit like weddings. It's like, you don't want to turn up to your first date in a wedding dress. So you sort of want to build a bit of relationship first. You know what I mean? Because you don't want to have like that as the opening. But as soon as you decide to work together, that's when you need to be like, okay, and come at it with the opinion of, we're doing this so that we know exactly where we stand.
That's all.
And don't be afraid to talk about that. The worst thing is to be like, oh, I don't want to, we'll do it, but we're just mates, we're just verbal agreement. It's the worst thing you can do. It's a surefire way to destroy a relationship. Because contracts are good so you can understand comprehension. It's like, you might have said something, but do they understand it in the way that you've put it forward? So and vice versa, they might have said stuff. Because what collaboration might mean to me might not be what they think it is. It might mean something totally different.
And if you produce this win-win, don't ruin it with actually being unclear of the ground rules for both of you.
Love that, Chris. Fabulous. So my top 3 things are different but relevant. Work with people who aren't the same as you, but are relevant to you, your values, who are relevant to your audience, most importantly, relevant to your following, right? So, find, like, as you said, you worked with a winery, you might work with a real estate agent, you might work with a science news magazine, you might work with an astrophotographer if you are an astro artist, you might work with all these different people that are like similar, same, but different. So you can work with people that are literally the same, but I personally find that when you can find the collaborations with people that are in a non-competitive space, now, in a perfect world, we're only ever competing against ourselves, but that's not always how it feels. So, that's why I tend to, I coach other artists, but I tend to work in collaborations with people that aren't artists in order to grow my audience. And I recommend that for everybody.
Except me.
Except for you. Well, but here's the thing. You're an artist, but we do ultimately very different types of artwork.
Very different.
Like my audience are absolutely not your audience, and your audience are absolutely not my audience. And that's a-okay. So that's also something that's important, but we have the same values, right? Our value for growth, for personal development, for creating a successful life, for creating, just that personal development journey is like, we're the same, but different.
Yes.
So, and also I think it's because it's fun. Like we love working together.
That's the main one.
That's the main, like, I love that. And it's great. So that's number 1. Number 2 for me is be human in your ask and build relationships first. Don't be like, I have people come to me and they like, the way that they write their intro messages is like a piece of pure spam. It's just like, and it's just, I don't know, like, just be human. Again, I mean, I know we spoke about this in the email marketing episode,
Yeah.
right? The
Yeah.
way that you write your messages should be like you're writing to a friend, because ultimately this is how this person should end up in your life as a friend. It's building a relationship of a million bricks, right? But it's not just, I'm going to spam as many people as possible with this, but wait, there's more. If you sign up in the next 5 minutes, slaps the car of the bonnet car, right? You know what I mean? Don't do that. Be human, build relationships. It takes time. Look, I know we're all like, oh, I just want it now. Why can't I grow my account? Like, I need to gain an extra 1,000 people by the end of the week. Otherwise, I'm not good enough. Don't. It will calm. It's like a cumulative, it's like a snowball. At first, it's small, but then it builds up massively over time. So the level of success is always this parabolic curve, right? You feel like you're not moving forward at the very beginning. That's okay. It's the same with building a relationship. You feel like, oh, is it really going anywhere for a while? But until you build up a level of familiarity where you really vibe and gel with each other, then it takes off. You will still, it's not like a linear thing. It is like this. So just remember, just take your time, build the relationships. There's not a single entrepreneur in the world that's like, oh yes, I've got enough done today. Right? We're always like, you know, most people are always like, oh, I'm not moving forward fast enough. It's okay. Sometimes, that go slow to go fast, 100% in this case. And my last one is to look for engagement, not following. There are a lot of accounts with fake followers or followers that do not engage. And there was a time when having millions and millions of followers was fantastic because, everything, the content always got shown to their followings. Now, every platform, it doesn't matter if it's YouTube, if it's TikTok, if it's Instagram, Facebook, whatever, just because someone follows you does not mean that they get your content. And the reason being is because now all these platforms realize, hey, this doesn't create massive levels of engagement with because from a platform point of view, they're just looking for time spent, engagement, eyeballs, attention. They realize that some of your content sucks, as it does with all of us, right? Love and peace. We all do incredible pieces of content that take off and we go, oh, I made it. You know what I mean? But most of the time, you can't hit wins every time. But the platforms want to give people wins every time when you're browsing. And now that there is competition between different platforms that are only giving their audience win after win after win, even with YouTube, right? Just because you subscribe to a channel does not mean that you get their content. The algorithm will show you what you're interested in. Just because someone follows you on Facebook or follows you on Instagram doesn't mean that in your feed, or at least in your search page, your homepage, that it won't necessarily give you that content. What it will do is it will give you the best of what it thinks will keep you on the platform and engaged. So, look for engagement, not following. I often get approached, because this is the other thing, is like, how much does it cost? Because like sometimes the value exchange in influencer marketing is paying another account that has a great engagement in order to share your content. That is a valid way to engage. When you pay for advertising, it's an influencer marketing deal where the platform says, you give me value in the form of currency and I will show this to my audience, right? It's actually exactly the same, but instead of paying the platform in the maze of like Facebook or Instagram or like even LinkedIn ads, right? You're paying another person. You might be paying that person in like collaboration where you show that the content. You might be doing it in the sense of you produce a piece of, you might do a giveaway, or something like that. But there is a value exchange, whatever that is, so look for engagement, not following, because the amount of times when I've had accounts being like, yeah, but I've got 15 million followers. So, you need to pay $500 for this post. And I look at it and look at the post and like 3 people have liked this post, or let's say 300. And I'm like, yeah, nah.
Yeah.
You don't, because people can buy followers. And whilst Facebook and all of these different social media platforms are trying their very best to remove like bots and fake accounts. There are just so many. There are loads and loads and loads. And it's very hard. And I don't know if you've ever researched or seen, but they will have like a room where there is like a whole, like the whole wall is filled with different like phones. They're all plugged in together and they're all like churning through, liking, engaging, following in a way that makes it look like they're real people.
Yeah.
And so I would say if you ever get the offer where it looks like that, or if you ever get like collaborate, give us $50 and we'll get you guaranteed 1,000
all the time.
Don't do it. Yeah. That's not, the point of human, like, because again, like, it's like trying to filter out the spam, right? What ultimately humans want is to connect with humans. Human connection is, right, we don't want to connect with a robot. We don't want to connect with a spam bot. We want to connect. So not just that you should be looking for other human people, but their audiences are also looking for it. And your audience is also looking to connect on an authentic level.
I was going to say, it just comes back to that connection and building relationships again, doesn't it?
Yeah, for sure. I would say that if you are doing like paid posts, which I've done a lot of, for me, it's just influencer marketing that's inherent in part of it is, obviously get comfortable with negotiating, look at their audience. There are lots of different like free online tools, which I'll put a link to the description in a couple of different ones, but I love Social Blade as a good start. It's free. You can just click click in there and just type your own in. Have a look at how your audience grows, because it's fantastic, right? Look at how those audiences are built, and see, whether it's been a slow burn or whether it's all, whether the people are engaged. They've got all these different metrics that are really helpful to understand whether that's the right kind of person. But ultimately, prices vary if you're doing an actual paid influencer deal. So, the more people, I would say, ask a lot of different people. I know this is counter to the advice I gave earlier, but just so that you understand a schedule of prices, because every industry is a little different, right? The people that are involved, there are a lot of accounts in particular on Instagram that are like, we just share artists, and it's like a collaboration of like a lot of different types of artists all over the show. Those have been a lot less successful for me than working with people that are specifically space related, because ultimately I realized that people that are interested in my art are interested in space. So there are accounts like that I probably don't have like ongoing built human relationships with. We've tried a few of them, and some of them are, a lot of them don't necessarily work out, but the ones that we realize are run by these like kind of like real people that want to give like value to an audience in a specific area, in particular like the space accounts. Those are the ones that have been super successful. You only really understand what is a fair price by asking a bunch of different people. And don't worry, they will definitely respond. If they're an account that will do like paid DMs, they will get back to you. 100%. So again, look for engagement, not following, and also look for the kind of content that you want to be situated in and around. I think it's very important. So those are my top 3, which kind of sprawled out to a bit more.
That's all okay. All value.
What? I know I said this earlier, but I just want to reiterate: if you want to work with another account and you don't have a lot of following and you don't have the financial ability to pay someone, just find an account that's similar to yours. If you've got 500 followers and you've got another account that's 500 followers and you're in a similar but different situation, work together. You don't necessarily have to start with the accounts that are like got millions and all of this engagement. If they've just got they have like 500 likes on their post and you've got 500 likes, or you've got 20 likes on your post and they've got 20 likes on their posts, start there. You don't have to be You don't have to be like, I must work with these grade A tier things. Obviously, you don't necessarily want to devalue yourself either. But if you're in a basic relationship where it's just like, you share my content, I'll share yours, right? You don't have to, there's always someone out there to work with.
Yeah.
So any final thoughts, Chris?
I was just going to touch on those fake ones. That was all. But you've already covered that. You get those messages all the time, don't you? Saying, love your work, DM me, we'll show your work, and just delete.
I'm getting a lot of those.
Do occasionally like look at them, and there's no engagement, there's no likes. It's just rubbish.
I don't know if this is like, because I'm obviously, we just said, go. And there's a lot of stuff that I've said that somehow like are like little contradictions, but I often think like if people are coming to you, it's because they almost have no value to give. Now, I know that our advice is to go out there and try and start working with people, but they are all messaging you with the intention to get your funds, rather, when you go and reach out to people, you're doing it with the intention to give. And that's the main difference. And you can tell straight away if that message that someone's DM'd you is they're trying to support you because they really care about what you're doing, or they genuinely are interested in you, versus, if they just want to get something out of you. So be aware of that. And I'm starting to get a lot of DMs about, hey, we're a gallery. Do you want to come and exhibit in our show? And I dig down a little deeper, and it's like, the wall space is very expensive. It's with artists that, I've got to cover shipping artwork across the globe.
Yeah.
There's a lot of those that are coming through that I don't feel are very, very genuine. And I genuinely steer clear of them, unless, again, they are there to build a relationship with you. So I think being vigilant to those kinds of things, because there's a lot of scams. There's so many, like, if people just want your money for whatever reason, you know what I mean? They're just trying to get by, but there are a lot of scammers out there. It's so important to be aware of that, and they're not giving value in any way. So just, it's nice to feel like you're being courted, but you gotta underlie, like, I do often ask people, like, what are you after? What is it what's in it for you? Because that is often a very illuminating statement, for sure.
Beautiful.
All right. So have you got more questions about how to set up collaborations or joint ventures? Please ask us in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. As always, our social links are down in the description, as well as some of the tools that we spoke about. Make sure you give us a follow on the various different social medias, so you can catch our future episodes. Now, the next episode, we are going to be talking about hosting art auctions. I will see you next time.
See you then. Bye.